Good evening. We start tonight with the US President Donald Trump. He began his state visit to Britain with a bang today. He called the London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, a stone cold loser. He also likened Khan to New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, describing him as very dumb and incompetent. Trump appears to have thrown his hat in the ring for the Conservative Party Member of Parliament, Boris Johnson, in Boris Johnson's bid to become the next leader of the Conservative Party and then the Prime Minister of Britain. Tonight, Trump is being hosted by Queen Elizabeth II at a state banquet. Tomorrow, he'll meet the outgoing British Prime Minister Theresa May. Holly Hudson is our reporter in London tonight. She's there for us. Now, Holly, good evening to you. So Donald Trump lands and immediately starts lobbing the political hand grenades.
Oh, he didn't even land. It was even before he landed on British soil that Donald Trump wrote a series of provocative tweets and ruffled feathers, reigniting his ongoing feud with the London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, as you said, calling him a stone-cold loser, saying he's been a terrible mayor and should focus on London crime, not me. Now, the mayor has responded and said these are childish insults that should be below a president. And of course, these comments have prompted anger from among MPs. The president's state visit invitation in itself caused a backlash among politicians here, many calling for it to be cancelled. And now these comments about the London mayor have prompted others to call him divisive, say these ridiculous insults are the reason why we should never have invited the president in the first place. The opposition leader, Jeremy Corbyn, tweeting, urging people to, as he puts it, stand in solidarity with those that the president has attacked in the UK, the US, the world and our country, including now Sadiq Khan. So state visits are supposed to, of course, improve relations, and the president has arrived to all the pomp and ceremony that they do entail. This morning he was greeted in the private gardens of Buckingham Palace by the Queen and other royals. He's been for tea with the future King Prince Charles and his wife Camilla, and tonight he will just about be arriving at Buckingham Palace for the customary lavish state banquet in front of 170 guests, the white tie and tiara dinner, during which he will give a speech alongside the Queen.
Holly, you talk about people being opposed to him there. You spoke about political leaders, Jeremy Corbyn being one of them. What are ordinary people saying about this? I mean, I can't imagine Trump is that popular on the streets of London tonight.
Well, we've already seen tonight crowds gathering outside Buckingham Palace, protests planned there, but the big one is tomorrow when Trump holds talks with Theresa May at Downing Street. Now, 250,000 took to the streets last time in London, one of the nation's biggest ever rallies in protest against Trump. I've spoken to a few of them who don't think that he deserves the honour of a state visit. Many other presidents have had to wait. Within only 2 years, Donald Trump received the invitation. They think his policies are too divisive, and that is a view shared by many MPs, including Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn and the other opposition leader, Lib Dem leader Vince Cable. Both of them have declined their invite to tonight's banquet at Buckingham Palace, and many MPs will be joining the protests tomorrow, becoming keynote speakers. So, yeah, a lot of anger here, not just about the president's policies, but of course the potential trade deal on the table with the US. The Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, again tweeting about the chlorinated chicken and the NHS procurement potentially being on the table in terms of a trade deal, describing that as terrifying.
We have all of this happening. I mean, it's a very strange time to be hosting a US president, to be having any kind of state dinner. You've got the old Prime Minister about to leave. We don't yet know who's going to take over.
No, exactly. I mean, in some ways, when Theresa May extended this invite, she was high at the top of the polls. Brexit was 3 years away. Now, of course, we're in a very different situation. The Prime Minister, this will be one of her last roles as the Prime Minister of the UK before she steps down on the 7th of June, just a few days' time. Brexit is unresolved. The Tory leadership race hasn't officially begun, but still hasn't yet begun. And the President has thrown his hat into the ring for Boris Johnson, who is the current frontrunner to replace Mrs May, which again has caused a lot of controversy among politicians who say that a US president shouldn't be interfering in British politics such as that. He gave interviews before he arrived in Britain indicating his endorsement, his support for Boris Johnson, saying he would be a good Prime Minister. He also gave us his thoughts on Brexit itself, saying that Nigel Farage, the leader of the populist Brexit party here, should have been involved in negotiations. We know that those two are friends. Nigel Farage also tweeted saying that Donald Trump is a friend to the UK. He wants Brexit to happen. Donald Trump also criticised the amount of the divorce bill that the UK sent to the EU. So all that makes for a very interesting melting pot of talks with Theresa May tomorrow. There will be a press conference, and of course Donald Trump is likely to not let up either on the Britain's decision to allow Chinese telecoms company Huawei to build part of the 5G network here.
So you've got Boris Johnson, you say he's the front runner. I mean, how do you think the rest of Britain feels about him? There also seems to perhaps be a little bit of a gap here, if I've got my timelines right. You say that the leadership race for the Conservative Party hasn't actually started yet, and Theresa May steps down just on the 7th. What happens in the middle?
Well, the way this works is what she will trigger the leadership contest officially once she steps down. Now, we've seen many of those with their hats in the ring. There are 13 contenders at the moment. And again, another source of contention, many MPs saying that that's too many. This is a shambles, it's been described by a Tory peer today, with so many people vying to replace Mrs May. Many of them have now put out their leadership campaign videos. We've seen Boris Johnson's today, not just talking about Brexit, but trying to incorporate other issues on policing and teaching as well, saying that he would give schools more money per head per pupil. So trying to start winning over those voters. But interestingly, it won't actually be the public who will vote for the next Conservative leader and the next Prime Minister. It will just be Conservative Party members. 100,000 of them will whittle it down to 2, and then somebody will become our next Prime Minister. Boris Johnson at the moment currently on odds of 2 to 1 to become the next Prime Minister in July.
Holly Hudson, thank you very much indeed, our correspondent in London tonight with the latest from there. And of course, more coverage to come of the US President's visit to Britain.